Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily futures and crypto market outlook for tomorrow's trading, tomorrow being the 21st of the month. Overall, we're going to have a short week ahead of us with Thanksgiving right around the corner, and very likely, just like we saw today, probably going to be a little bit of a slow one. So, gotta play it a little bit careful, I think is the best way to put it, or a little bit patiently. Maybe bring a lot of extra caffeine, but whatever you need to do, it's probably going to be a little bit of a slow one this week, and it does make sense given the time of year that we're in right now. So, just make the plan like we always say, make the plan, trade the plan, follow your rules. You should be all right. Before we jump on in, as always, make sure to swing it over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. From here, you'll be able to sign up through our email list, and you'll be notified every time one of these videos comes out. But along with that, in the email itself, we go over all kinds of different stuff, from different interesting investments coming around the corner. We have a really good one planned for today's email, so make sure to read through that if you get those emails. If you don't want to miss out, make sure to sign up so you don't miss those types of things. But a very interesting one hitting the docket, along with a few other stock calls and different things that kind of stand out of interest, or at least of potential that you can look to play. Along with that, make sure to click on the live trade room subscription and trial info, where you can sign up for a free 3-day trial in the live trade room. Now, because of the upcoming holiday, to clarify, you'll get 3 days in the room. It might just be split up a little bit with the holidays around the corner, so don't worry if you sign up tomorrow. You'll still get 3 days as a whole. I'm not going to cut you off early. Don't worry about that. But make sure to sign up for the live trade room subscription and trial info, so you can sign up for that free 3-day trial of the room. You can hang out with us for a couple days, see how we approach the markets, whether they're fast, slow, and look at how we plan our trades and how we get everything going. So it's a great way to get an inside look in terms of how everything works and runs. Just a good experience overall if you haven't signed up for it yet already. So taking a look overall, starting off on the euro, not really much going on today. We had a big rally up and then a big drop back down again, pretty much giving up everything that the day started off with. Now, it's hard to not look back a little ways and see, well, that big drop that they had going down, they came right back up to the highs of it and bounced right back off of it again. And we could just be transitioning into a huge range all the way down at the lows of around 760, 770, up to the highs at around, 18,600s. It could very well be the case. And if we zoom even further out, we can see that this market is no stranger to these price levels. We've been floating around here for a long time, arguably it's had a tighter range up around here, and we've finally started breaking down. This could be nothing more than a fake break low before a monster rally to the upside. So in terms of long-term plays, honestly, I would love to see a retest of this low for a buy-in to shove the market back up towards those highs. Very commonly, that's what you see. Whenever they break a previous swing that fails the breakout, right? An example, let's look at this swing low. They broke down, they held the bottom as resistance, worked beautifully. They break out back above it, showing failure. The sellers who sold down here are now stuck holding the bag. They need to try to get out. And if they start averaging in up here, that's going to put their average break-even point right around that same place as the swing low. And very frequently you see the market pull back, hit that area, and go rocketing to the upside as all of the sellers get out of their positions. They turn into buyers, and more buyers look to buy the pullback. So we get basically everybody turning into a buyer on that dip, shoving the market back up to a new high. And that's kind of the play that I'm looking for going in through this week, probably the rest of the week, just because we are going into a holiday. It might take that long for it to actually go, but I'm looking for that re-pullback down to around 17,130 for that bounce back up, and then we can look for those highs once again to test. I would probably be a safe bet to front run them a little bit. Look at 1.20595, big round number, of course, at 1.2. Lots of things of consideration on the way up, but a potential longer term play on the euro to rally the market up over the coming week ahead of us. Over on gold, for the most part, gold is continuing to be a choppy, sloppy mess. There's basically nothing at all happening on gold. Every time they try to make a move, it fails and falls back down again. This is that failure that we were talking about across those highs with the 3-push wedge top, a failure above those major swings. Now that we're starting to fail above that, looking for the dive down, and you guessed it, coming back to resistance and pushing back off. So if we can get a little bit of a rally back up towards around 1290 to 1288 in that $2 range or so, that would be the area where a lot of sellers are likely going to start building into those positions and slam the market back down again. for a potential of a move back down to a new low. We've tried so many times for the buyers to break out to the upside. They broke out here, they broke out here, they broke out there, and every single one of them has failed. We might be gearing up for a shot for the sellers this time around to try to get their breakdown. They're sitting in the same boat where they tried to get a seller breakdown in these little minor swings, but notice the major swings, they haven't tried it, they haven't tried it, they haven't tried it, they haven't tried it. None of those have been attempted on, whereas the buy side, every single one of them has failed. We could be looking for a test of this bottom side, a rally back up on a lower high rally, sellers to jump in and push the market down to try the opposite side of things this time around to see if the sellers want to give it a go. In the short to medium term, you know, since really kind of mid-September, we have been in a bear trend. So it would make sense if the short-term sellers want to go along with the trend, looking for a selling opportunity to try to drive the market back down and also retest this low. They missed that retest, they missed that test, they missed the test. That's usually where you get that big reversal and a rocket ship up, but that failed. So we're looking for that retest on the downside at around 61 for completion for the bears. On crude oil, nice range so far. I mean, really, we have a beautiful bull trend since the beginning of October, but more recently we haven't had a whole lot else happen. We went into a really stagnant range, was looking like a little bit of a kind of a flag of some sort, but then the flag just kept going, and when you have a flag that goes on for that long, it stops being a flag, and it just kind of turns into a kind of a range or a choppy, sloppy type scenario. That's what we have here. We have a nice breakdown that came back and retested the lows of that range as resistance, and notice the amount of selling pressure that came in. And now it's getting stopped in its tracks. We're starting to see the buyers turn back around and try to lift the market back up. And that could easily lead into another attempt at this test. And if that attempt doesn't hold, if the sellers fail their hold there, we could be looking at a potential breakout to the upside and using that as support to rally back up towards a new high at around 58 or so. Currently, we're sitting at around 56.23. Doesn't look terrible in terms of cost, you know, trying to get in a little bit early for that bigger rally up towards 58. But we are lacking proof right now. What I would really like to see is for the market to come back down and retest that area where they held it as resistance, now looking for them to break above and use it as support for continuation to the upside. Either way, we are forming a higher low that is coming off of those major peaks that we had from before. You can see all of those little swing highs acting as massive support on the way down. Buyers defending, sellers defending the earlier range low. We have a little bit of a fist fight on our hands with a slight emphasis to the upside for the buyers to continue this really nice bull trend. We can see the last time this happened as well, they tried getting that big old break to the downside. That failed, and it led into a month worth of upside. We could be looking for the exact same thing here on crude oil for another month worth of upside. And then finally on the S&P is an absolute train wreck. There's not really a whole lot going on. The S&P is very, very slow. We have a potential trap on the highs that failed its breakout. They already had the retest at a beautiful dive lower. And now we're coming down to the bottom edge where, again, not really a whole lot is happening. We can see that they're holding that bottom side as well. And we're really just kind of cycling from earlier range levels. Once again, we're back to the same range that we have been in for most of November, late October, and we're kind of stuck back there again. So looking to hold the lows, hold the highs, and given the overall movement, buy low, sell high does make sense to see if we can get in towards the bottom with an obvious emphasis to the upside, right? Buying as low as possible makes a huge amount of sense given this monstrous bull rally to the highs, and anything cheap is going to be seen as cheap by a lot of people looking to potentially hang on for the end of the year run. And as they always say, you know, that Santa rally, well, we've been having a Santa rally for most of the year now, or at least most of September and arguably a good part of the year. Could be looking for that Santa rally to continue going into December. That means a lot of long-term holders are looking to buy into the S&P and hang on for a while. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Now, in terms of the news for tomorrow, we didn't have a whole lot today. There was a couple of things from Draghi speaking, but that's really about it. Tomorrow, we do have some news announcements, but still not very many on the list. 5 o'clock tomorrow morning out of the UK, we have the inflation report hearings. At 10 o'clock out of the US, we have the existing home sales for October, forecasted at 5.42 million. Previous was 5.39 million. And then at 1800 in the afternoon, we have Yellen on the microphone, Fed Chair Yellen speaking at 1800 tomorrow. So if you are holding any positions overnight, you might want to be a little bit more cautious on that one with her on the mic. Also going into the holidays is another concern, of course, but we at least have some stuff tomorrow to keep the markets moving. Jumping over to the cryptos, we have Bitcoin pushing in on Coinbase at least above 8,000. We've seen a lot of exchanges already hit 8,000, and now we're looking at the Euro market, BTC versus the Euro, looking to push into 7,000. So they are also hitting some really good movement to the upside. But now Coinbase, which is where this price data is coming from, has broken to a new high above 8,000, pushing into almost 8,300. So just a phenomenal rally to the upside. And now with this just ridiculous bullishness, what I would really like to see is a little bit of a pullback. Now, when I say a little bit of a pullback, I love seeing these kind of pullbacks, don't get me wrong. Those are opportunities to buy very, very cheap. But at this point in time, these little shallow pullbacks are usually what occur along the way. So I'm looking for more something like this. Not as steep, but something with a little bit of substance to it, right? If we look back at that price at the time, we can forecast kind of how big that price range was, looking from the high down to that low pullback. That was about a 13% pullback. So another shallower 13% pullback definitely wouldn't hurt my feelings. And if we look right around that same area, 13 or so percent lines up really well with the lows of the range before the breakout. And also, all of this previous range back here is all in the same place at around 13 or 14%. So a nice little dip off of the highs by about 10 to 15% would be a really nice buying opportunity for long term to try to drive that market back up and keep that thing on the rally bus to the upside to see if we can hit give the moon a high five as we fly off towards Mars. Either way, though, really good continuation to the upside. I would like to see a good pullback, though, of some substance so we can jump on in at a cheaper price again. On Ethereum, beautiful rally to the upside. We were talking about on Twitter how we had a little bit of a pennant formation here. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, make sure to do that sooner than later. You might be missing out on some really nice opportunities. That's at Slingshot Future. No S on the end. They have a character limit, so it's Slingshot Future because that's all I could fit. But don't forget to follow us on Twitter. But just a beautiful pennant. We have a breakout looking for the upside. Everybody's going to be looking for the highs at around 375 and even a little bit further towards 380. If we bump out to a larger time frame, something like a daily, we can see that we are starting to wind in towards those wedge highs. This is certainly nothing of a surprise when it comes to the wedges on Ethereum. We've been stuck in this wedge for quite a while now, and we are rotating back towards the highs on the daily. So with a daily wedge floating around, it wouldn't be a surprise to see them try to break out above the highs, and that would push price to around 380. If that breakout occurs with some substance, right? I'm talking a breakout that looks something like this, right? A good breakout, start tapping some of these previous major swings. We are very likely going to see a pullback, monstrous buying opportunity behind those previous swing highs and wherever those swing lows line up at the time for a rally back up to 400s. And push really aggressively back up towards 440 even to new record highs on Ethereum. Ethereum gave tons of opportunities to buy really, really cheap at 2/3 off. Now that might be the last time we see that kind of pullback for a while if we can get some good consistent breakouts to the upside. On the 60-minute chart though, to fire that off, we have a pennant formation with a breakout looking for continuation to the upside. On Litecoin, back to $70, pushing into $72.50 or so. Overall, we have a pretty good move to the upside with a sustainable trend. We have a very nice trend working its way higher. The one concern that I do have, though, is that a lot of this movement is seemingly getting a little bit weaker. This earlier breakout had a lot of breakout movement, and now we're seeing that just completely fall flat on its face up here. And that may just mean that the buyers are exhausted. They spent all of their money buying down here, and when it finally started breaking out, now they've got to start taking some profit, and that could have been what that was. But I'm looking for a little bit of a bigger pullback. I want to see a deeper pullback, not necessarily huge, but at least back down to around 65 or so. 65.49 specifically looks awesome with those previous swing highs, swing lows through there. Looks really, really nice for a possible test, and that would be a halfway decent pullback. Again, if we look at the overall price range from the highs to the dip lower, that would be about 10% going on 11%. That seems to be about a pretty healthy pullback when we're talking about the cryptos. So eyeballing that 65.50 for sure on a dip down. Otherwise, though, Litecoin is still looking really good, if a little bit weak at the highs. Might just be some buyers taking profit before, maybe a little bit of a pullback to 65 and then a rally going into the end of the year all the way up to 100. We'll have to wait and see. Over on ADA is looking really, really good. Cardano showing a beautiful amount of strength here. We held the previous wedge lows, wedge highs, all coming into the same place. We are now forming a new wedge low coming through. They missed the 786 pullback by just a little bit, and the buyers have come in with some extreme force. Now, really all that tells us to do is look for the next pullback. The next pullback might be a lower low, probably won't, but if it is a lower low, there's going to be a huge amount of buying around 300 again, just like there was back here. But if we don't get that type of pullback, what we're looking for next is going to be a sub pullback to around those previous swing highs. We're sitting right on top of that right now. Both horizontal support and swing, kind of a wedge top support, all coming in the same place, right around 350s, 360s or so, looking for continuation back to the upside. Interestingly enough, that 411 area that we were marked up earlier last week and the week before, we've now come back and kind of put in a retest of that as resistance now at 414. So kind of an area of interest here for buyers. And that might turn into a line in the sand like we saw on Ethereum and Litecoin. Would prefer to see a breakout above that and then a pullback to use it as support once again. But either way, long-term ADA I still have a lot of faith in. I think it's one of those really good markets where they've got a lot of stuff going on next year. Dollar cost averaging in, buying little bits and pieces here and there, you know, $10 a week or whatever, could turn into a lot more in really only a year's time. So I'm really liking the way the ADA is looking. It's nice and cheap at only a couple cents. And that could end up being about 20 cents going into next year, which I think is definitely feasible for ADA, and that would be a 10-time increase for a monster move there. Over on the ETP, now ETP, Metaverse, a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of chop and slop, and not a whole lot going on. We are holding above that major buy zone at around $2.90, and we're forming a little bit of what appears to be a flat bottom. We had a flat bottom form here, big breakout. Flat bottom form here, big breakout. We're now starting to build another flat bottom that could be leading into another breakout to the upside. And that breakout, if we do start getting some legs, we'd be breaking out above extreme swing highs, we'd be breaking out above falling resistance, and that's kind of the last line in the sand for the sellers. If they fail that move and they can't hold the market down, that's where we start looking for all of those sellers that were in ETP on margin shorts. They're going to start getting hammered and they're going to have to start dropping those contracts, and that leaves a lot of room to the upside back towards around $6, maybe even going on to $7 depending on how strong the breakout is. So I think ETP still has a lot of room for growth. It's a really good looking project. They definitely have their kinks. Their wallet has been having some issues. Antivirus software has been flagging it. People have been using it incorrectly, and that's been causing some issues. But if they can get some of those minor things out of the way, that's creating some of that that kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD, well, I think we have a lot of upside potential here on ETP going into next year as well. And then, of course, NEO. Hard to talk about NEO without looking at this monster rally to the upside, finally playing out into that almost $50 mark, and now we're pulling back a little bit. Major support level coming in around 36 to 35, looking for buyers to support that area and push the market back up to potentially finish the objective up to 49.50s, maybe even the $50 mark, where then we're going to start pushing into record highs, and we're not going to have a whole lot else to worry about because the major high was put in back here at around 57.5, and if we start breaking above that, we're going to be in the same scenario as Bitcoin, where there's nothing else above us to worry about. And then we're just left with projections. We do, of course, have a 3-push wedge top that did miss just a little bit, and usually when a 3-push misses, they're going to try to come back and grab that test again, and well, we are in a perfect pullback area for that to get done. We may pull back into some of the earlier areas of support as well, 32.77. I doubt it's going to go as low as 26.82 or 23.21, but if it does, a retest of those areas would be another buying location. Plenty of potential for NEO. The one thing here, very similar to ETP, they've got a lot of FUD going on with NEO right now, a lot of criticisms and a lot of issues. And even though there are no scheduled news announcements, I think with all of this stuff going on, with all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt with some of the accusations and things going on with NEO, they're going to have to announce something to kind of quell that kind of flood of accusation. And if that does happen, we could be looking for another big rally to the upside if they can quench some of that fire. But we'll have to wait and see. Right now, NEO is kind of on the sidelines for me until we see what they do with that. But for right now, yeah, we'll kind of leave it on the list and we'll keep an eye on it to see what they want to do. But that's going to do it for the outlook. Overall, plenty of opportunities ahead of us, even though we are going into a holiday. Don't forget, cryptos never close. They're open 24/7. And a lot of traders are going to be coming home from the holidays, and they might have that itch. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty addicted to trading. And if a market's open, you'll probably find me sitting in front of that computer screen. And, well, cryptos might be a nice haven for some of those traders that have been waiting to get into crypto, Now they have a holiday ahead of them that might just offer them up, and that could lead Bitcoin up into 9,000 or maybe even 10,000. We'll have to wait and see. But that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you learned something, found it interesting, maybe a nice little addition for your tool belt going into tomorrow's trading. Aside from that, though, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email them in. And yeah, like we always say, it doesn't matter what kind of market you are trading, make a plan, trade that plan, follow the rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.